Wherever you are on your road to retirement, we're here to help you stay on course. Welcome to Mason Street Retirement Insights, the show dedicated to helping you plan your financial future.
What is your biggest concern? People are very focused on the amount of money that they have saved, but it's really about the income that we generate. Income is what's going to drive lifestyle. And so the income strategies that we utilize are what's key.
And now, here's your host, Sean Mason.
Welcome into Mason Street Retirement Insights. My name is Casey, and I am back again with financial advisor Sean Mason, founder of Mason Street Wealth Management in Fresno. And we are here helping you sort through the rules, the risks, and the decisions that really matter when it comes to your retirement. Sean, my friend, happy Saturday. How we doing? What's going on? Tell me something good.
Yeah, it's all good, Casey. I love this time of the year. I'll tell you what, though. Here in Fresno, we are used to not having much of a spring, and it looks like that's happening right now because we're going from cold to hot right away.
Just skipping right over the middle there.
It really is. What's going on within your neck of the woods?
Listen, I'm here. I'm sitting in the AC with you. It's a beautiful Saturday, and we're about to talk retirement. So what could be better?
Oh, nothing.
I'm living the dream.
Yes, you are.
I'm excited to get into our show today, Sean. You know better than anyone that retirement can feel a lot like a game with a lot of moving parts, and sometimes it's hard to know if you're making that right call. So that's why you're here each and every week to help our listeners see the field more clearly and possibly avoid some costly missteps along the way. So as we get into it, I just want our listeners to jot down our phone number, 559-847-0039, and I want them to keep it handy because Sean has set aside a limited number of openings this week for his introductory retirement planning assessment. Now, this is an exclusive opportunity just for our radio listeners, and it's an opportunity for those with $500,000 or more saved for their retirement. So we want you to take advantage. 559-847-0039. This is a chance for you to sit down with a local professional. Sean is right here in Fresno, and you can ask him your questions, and you can finally gain a clearer picture of where you stand when it comes to your finances. 559-847-0039. Or you can also find us online if that's easier for you. We are at Mason Street, retirementinsights.com. You'll just click that contact tab, fill out your information for us. Make sure you say you heard us on the radio, and then we will be happy to reach out directly to you. So, Sean, as we're getting started on the show today, I want to jump into something that's been popping up in the headlines more and more, and it's definitely catching people's attention. A lot of folks nearing retirement are already trying to figure out when to claim Social Security. And now they're starting to wonder what it might actually look like by the time they get there. A new report by the Congressional Budget Office now expects the program's trust fund to run dry a year earlier than expected in 2032. If Congress does nothing, Social Security recipients would see an average 28% cut in their monthly benefits. Now that adds up to over $18,000 per year, Sean. So my question here is, how can future retirees plan for this possibility before it happens? You know, we got 6 years here to plan. So what should we be doing?
Yeah, what happened to the security part of Social Security?
That's right. Good point.
This is becoming more concerning to people as the awareness increases. And it's unfortunate. We work all those years paying into Social Security, and now receiving Social Security is questionable. There's several things that they could do to help strengthen the program, but it's a political nightmare, so we probably can't rely on any remedies anytime soon.
Yeah, so I think that really shifts the focus to what people can actually control instead of just sitting around waiting for Washington to figure it out, right?
Yeah, that's true, and that's for sure. And because Social Security is such a significant income source, it's critical to have a backup plan. Income is what drives lifestyle, and that's true whether we're working and then when we're in retirement. But when we're in retirement, we have more control of where the income comes from. 401ks, IRAs, Roth accounts, taxable accounts.
Yeah, well, and I think that surprises people too because they don't realize that they actually have options in retirement when it comes to where that income actually comes from.
Yeah, for sure. And the strategies you use can significantly affect the amount of income you're able to generate through the years. In many situations, we can make up for Social Security shortfall just by adjusting the strategy, investment design, tax mitigation, they all play a part in the income strategy. They all affect each other.
Well, and that's an important point because that's hopeful. So you're saying, this isn't necessarily a deal breaker.
Yeah, and it's really important to be aware of the risk tolerance when designing these strategies. And that can be different for everyone. So, some families can stomach the swings of the market and others are more risk adverse. Income design should convey safety and predictability. And that's actually what Social Security was created to do. But regardless of what happens with Social Security, the foundation is always going to be comprehensive planning. It might be a change in Social Security. It might be something else. You have to have solutions. And knowing how challenges in the future will affect your income allows you to get ahead of it and implement strategy that might mitigate the consequences.
Well, so I'm wondering, Sean, if you could give us an example of this in practice, like a client that you've worked with where you help them plan for a possible Social Security shortfall in their retirement.
Yeah, in fact, Jennifer and Rob, they originally came in 4 or 5 weeks ago. They had been referred by their CPA over to us. And they came in originally with some Social Security questions. They weren't sure exactly how it worked. They wanted to figure out, the timing of when they should start Social Security. But they did bring up that, and especially Jennifer, she brought up that she was concerned. She had heard that there could be some possibly reduction in benefits over the next 7-10 years. And so she was concerned about that and didn't know if she should be planning for that. They are getting ready to retire in about 5 years. And, kind of walking through our planning assessment process, we identified some different things, some other concerns that they had, some things that they want to accomplish. And we decided that we'd work together to design a comprehensive plan. And, going through that process, we can identify a lot. We can get to know what's really important to people. And so in doing so, we came up with some different strategies. One is we decided to position an annuity. Now, this annuity is specifically designed for Roth conversions to generate a tax-free guaranteed lifetime income. And so they're going to be able to turn this on at a given year in the future and actually generate income, tax-free, guaranteed for the rest of their life. And part of the design was so that because that income did not have the tax burden, we did not have the tax expense that actually equated to higher spendable dollars that they had. And those additional spendable dollars were actually going to take care of the shortfall of Social Security in case we do experience that Social Security reduction. In addition, the guarantees that they had in that income allowed us to adjust their long-term investment strategy. We are able to adjust the strategy in that giving them a little bit more risk fit their risk tolerance because of the guarantees that we had originally put in place. That was going to allow us to, with probabilities, generate a little bit better rate of return over time. They were elated with this plan. In fact, Jennifer just called me actually a couple days ago and asked us to have another meeting and design another scenario. They got enough confidence going through this process that they're now considering retiring 2 years early.
That's incredible.
It really is. It's awesome. And it all came to be because they scheduled an initial consultation to get their questions answered. Casey, it's amazing what happens for people when they come in and they talk through their situation. They start to recognize scenarios that they didn't know were possible. And, so I want to invite our listeners to come into our office for a retirement planning assessment. It's a great opportunity to kind of talk through your situation, maybe uncover some ideas that you didn't know existed. We might have some recommendations that could help you. And we'll look into how comprehensive planning might help put you in a better position. So give our team a call, 559-847-0039. And for our first 5 callers, we're actually going to provide this retirement planning assessment with no cost to you. So give our team a call. They're going to find a convenient time for you to come into the office. And if you like Zoom, we can do that too.
559-847-0039. I think the key takeaway here, Sean, is this isn't about panic, but it's about preparation. So if our conversation hit close to home and you want to understand how your plan holds up, especially if Social Security changes down the road, this is exactly the kind of thing that Sean helps clients walk through every single day. So give us a call, 559-847-0039. If you have $500,000 or more saved for retirement, we will schedule some time for your very own introductory retirement planning assessment. And Sean is going to do this for you completely complimentary. All you got to do is make the call, 559-847-0039, or head online to MasonStreetRetirementInsights.com. Now, Social Security is one piece of the retirement puzzle. Sean, another huge piece is taxes. So I want to talk about taxes here for a moment. We know the two main savings vehicles for retirement are 401ks and IRAs, and both can hold a mix of tax-deferred and after-tax money. Now, in a 401k, there's a plan administrator who keeps track of this. But in an IRA, you are the plan administrator. So it's kind of on you to know which dollars have already been taxed. Now, I want us to listen to somebody who we call the IRA Whisperer. Her name is Denise Appleby. She was on Morningstar recently talking about how we can avoid this trap.
The primary reason for saving in IRAs is so that your earnings grow tax deferred and you pay taxes only when you take distributions of those amounts. It's about saving on taxes, and you lose all that benefit if you don't keep track of your after-tax amounts. You know, the tax preparer use what you give them. So don't assume that they know. Make sure you tell them about every type of transaction that occurs within your IRA.
And so that's where many people get tripped up, Sean. So when you do a yearly tax review for your clients, is this something that you identify so that there's no confusion or costly mistakes down the road for them?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And we run into this actually a lot. Through the years, people contributed to their 401k, their IRA, and they didn't realize that some of those dollars might have been taxable. You know, there's a maximum amount you can deduct each year.
Yeah, most people have no idea that that is even happening.
In case you make a good point, because the 4 administrator tracks and reports to the IRS so you're taxed properly. But it's up to you to report contribution types in your IRA. And you can use, there's a form you can use to do it. It's not difficult. I think it's called 8606. But when you provide that report to them, it just prevents any double taxation. But this can be a great opportunity. You know, when you separate from your employer, you can roll over your employer plan, your 401k, 403b, you can roll it over to an IRA. And most plans allow for this when you turn 59 and a half, even if you're still working.
And that opens up some planning opportunities, doesn't it?
It really does, because any after-tax dollars in that account, they can actually be rolled into a Roth IRA. You've already paid taxes, so it's just like a tax-free Roth conversion. But you have to direct the custodian because it doesn't happen automatically. For individuals who want to contribute more than the deductible threshold, we might recommend, just as a strategy, to contribute taxable dollars to the employer plan intentionally, so that we can roll them into a Roth IRA. It's called a backdoor Roth conversion.
Ooh, okay. No, that's one of those strategies that people hear about, but they do not fully understand, I think.
Yeah, and it takes a little discussion, it takes some understanding, but it's just one of many strategies you want to be aware of. Long-term tax planning is essential to ensure that you get as many spendable dollars as possible out of your resources. It's what drives lifestyle.
So, Sean, how do you help your clients make sure that they are as tax efficient as possible going into their retirement?
Yeah, it's really a good question, because you have to be really hyper-focused and intentional. And management throughout the year is what it takes. You always want to be looking for opportunities. Any stock positions that are in your IRA, you may, if they devalue, if they drop in value, you may want to consider converting those, because you're going to pay a lower amount of tax, and you might get the opportunity to experience a recovery in that Roth account tax-free. You also want to be looking in those taxable accounts for any tax loss harvesting. If you have a position that has dropped in value, sometimes, not every company you should be doing this with, but some of those stock positions, you want to actually sell that position at a loss, reinvest those dollars in a similar holding, because then you're going to capture that loss for your tax return, and that's really going to help. Reduce taxes. We really try and emphasize to the families that we work for to make sure and let us know when they want to take unplanned distributions. They might have found a cruise that they wanted to go on that we hadn't planned for. They might be looking for a new vehicle. They let us know when they're going to be taking some distributions, and that wasn't part of their plan, because we want to figure out where the best place to take it is. There's real tax strategy in that, and it's the difference between paying thousands of dollars in taxes unnecessarily. I always suggest, and for most of the families that we work with, they're going to take advantage of this, doing a mock tax return maybe in November. Most people, they do their tax return, but they do it after the fact when there's not a lot that they can do about last year. But if you do kind of a mock tax return in November, that gives you the opportunity to make some adjustments and take advantage of any strategies that might benefit you. It's always good to do an analysis of the tax return after it was done, because in some circumstances you can go back and adjust the tax return if you find any areas that might be beneficial to you in making those adjustments.
I'm curious, Sean, when people come into your office, how often do you find that IRA money has been taxed once and then it's on track to be taxed again? Is this something that happens often that you see before people come and see you?
Yeah, it happens a lot, and I would have liked to have gotten to them before they actually did the rollover. This happens a lot in rollovers. It doesn't happen so much when they're contributing to IRAs, because usually people are a lot more kind of focused on their contributions to an IRA. But it's so easy for this to happen in a 401k because those contributions are coming right out of the paycheck, and sometimes we're not paying attention and we don't realize that some of those dollars went into taxable. The difference is if you allow those dollars in the 401k to be rolled over and now they taxable dollars roll over into the IRA, you're subject to a lot more rules. You could have just allowed those dollars to roll right into a Roth.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a good example of why tax planning cannot just be a once a year thing. You're working on it all year round. You want to be tax efficient, so you can't, just hit it up right before April and think you're good. It's like you just said, let's try doing a mock return, in November, which nothing screams fun like a mock tax return, Sean. But listen, we know it's so important, and if it's gonna help you down the road, it's so worth it, right?
It's so true, and I'll tell you, it's amazing. We sometimes show saving six figures and multiple six figures, saving that amount of money in tax dollars. And if you're not giving it to the government, where's it going?
Right.
You're spending it, or you're passing it to the people who you care about.
Yeah. I mean, I would say a mock tax return is worth six figures, right?
No question about it.
No question asked. Well, what really stands out to me in this conversation is how easy it is for things to silently go wrong, not because people are careless or they don't care, but because they don't even know what they're supposed to be watching for. And when it comes to taxes, IRAs, and long-term planning, those little details can add up to a huge difference. We're talking six figures right now. So that's why we encourage you not to try and figure all this out on your own. Incorporate the help of the professionals. 559-847-0039. If this has raised questions for you, Sean has set aside time to talk with our listeners one-on-one. 559-847-0039. If you have $500,000 or more saved for retirement, an introductory retirement planning assessment directly with Sean is waiting for you. All you got to do is make the call. 559-847-0039 or connect with us online. We're at Mason Street, retirementinsights.com. You'll click that contact us button up top, fill out your information, and we'll be happy to reach out directly to you. All right, Sean, let's stay on this theme for a minute, because taxes are not the only place where small, easy to miss details can cost people more than they realize. It seems like everywhere you turn these days, somebody is finding a new way to tack on fees, sometimes without us even noticing it until it's too late. The latest I want to talk about comes from the car industry because the Wall Street Journal reported that so-called destination charges, these are charges to cover the cost of shipping a new car or truck to a dealership, those have jumped as much as 50%. And that can end up adding thousands to the sticker price of a vehicle without the buyer even realizing it. And I'm thinking, hidden fees also lurk inside retirement plans. So I wanted to talk about this and ask you how you help stop those hidden fees before they cause sticker shock for your clients.
Yeah, that's so interesting you bring that up. I was just talking to a dealership owner a few days ago, and they were talking to me about how the industry has changed so much that people are now shopping online for their cars.
Yeah, the Carvana, bigger than ever.
Right. And the thing is with that, they're price shopping. So before they actually get to go experience the car, they're looking at the sticker price, which causes kind of a concern for these dealerships because the price competition becomes so heavy. So now what they're having to do is they're having to separate out all of the additional fees. It's not about showing somebody the car, getting them to feel about how they feel about the car. Now it's purely about price. So they've got to separate out all the fees so that they can show the price of the actual vehicle being as low as possible. I found that really interesting. And to your point, Casey, sometimes people feel that way about their investment accounts, right? Financial industry has become very creative in separating out various fees and giving them their own names.
That's a great way to put it. I think it's important to note that it doesn't always show up as one clear number, and that really makes it harder for people to spot.
Oh, it's real. And when I ask people how much they're paying their current advisor, usually they don't know.
Oh, that's crazy.
Right. But often they'll say 1%. And we come to find out they're paying 2.2%. And it's not
over
because,
double.
Yeah, over double. And it's not because the advisor lied, but maybe they didn't tell the whole story. The advisory fee was 1%, and then there's an admin fee, and there's a transaction fee, and then there's expense ratios, portfolio fees, and before you know it, you're paying double what you thought you were. Most people think their 401k plan has no fees, or maybe just 0.25% of a fee. But then you look at the funds they're invested in, and the focus, and the fee often ranges from 0.5%, maybe 1.5% or more. Costs are necessary. No one expects services of any kind to be provided for free. But I'd like to see more transparency.
Yeah, well, right. It's not about free, but it is about understanding and knowing and having full knowledge of what you're paying for, right?
Well, that's right. I let families know that we're not the least expensive. We're very good at what we do, but I'm clear in what those costs are and what they're there for. And that's what we all want. We want to know the value we're getting and the cost we're paying. The tough part, especially in this industry, it's not always easy to measure the value. I teach several adult financial education classes at Fresno State, and I'm always asked, how do I find a good advisor, and then how much should they cost? And I encourage them to focus on the net value. And there are many aspects to that. If an advisor is charging 2%, can they do better than you by at least 2%? So compare your account history with their portfolio history. And then what additional services are they providing that can improve your position? If they're implementing tax strategies, that could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime, and that's not even included in the rate of return. And what are they doing to make your life easier and stress-free? Fees are not bad. They're necessary. You just have to make sure you're getting the value you deserve.
Well, how do people usually react when they sit down with you and you help them realize that they've actually been paying more than they thought this whole time? What kind of reaction do you see in that case?
They're really surprised. I think often they're embarrassed that they didn't know because they realize they should know. And I try and help them. I say, look, sometimes it's intentional that these fees are not so apparent. And I shouldn't be saying that maybe about the industry, but it does seem like that sometimes.
Yeah.
You just got to dig in and you got to find out. You got to look up what expense ratios are in actual funds, and you got to be looking at your statements. And a lot of us maybe sometimes don't focus a whole lot into the statements.
Yeah. Well, how do you then help them compare what they're getting now if they think they're overpaying, or you help them realize they are definitely overpaying? How do you help them compare to what they're getting versus what's possible?
A lot of this goes into planning, but, specifically from an investment perspective, we're able to go through and show them all of the expenses that they're paying so that they get clarity in the cost. And then we help them see what their value is. What are they getting for the costs that they're paying? This also leads into risk. How much risk are they taking to get the rate of return that they're getting? And are they paying an advisor for that? And if they are, then those rate of return ratios should be a lot better than they would be on their own. Also, when you get into planning, as we talked about, saving people in taxes, you start to show value from an advisory perspective, and they really start to get it. They start to get clarity.
So it sounds like to me this is one of those areas where getting a second opinion can really make a difference for somebody long term. I mean, look at these numbers look at 1% to 2.2%, like you mentioned. Over somebody's 30, 40-year retirement, that's a huge, huge difference. So it sounds like to me a second opinion could really make a difference in somebody's life here.
It really does. And just going through that process of getting a second opinion, things become apparent. You start to see things that you didn't recognize, but then also you start to kind of dream and you start to kind of think about what things could be like.
Yeah.
It's a great process to go through.
559-847-0039. Truly, the minimum you should be asking for is transparency, and that's exactly what Sean and his team at Mason Street Wealth Management focus on with their clients every single day. Your understanding and your comfortability is their number one goal. So if our show today made you think, I should probably take a closer look at my retirement, at my plan, at these fees that I'm paying, this is a great opportunity for you to do just that. Let's get a second set of eyes on your plan. 559-847-0039. Sean has set aside a limited number of openings this week for his introductory retirement planning assessment. This is just for our radio listeners. Absolutely no obligation. Just a conversation. 559-847-0039. When you dial that number, it will connect you with one of our Mason Street teammates, and they will help you set up a time to connect directly with Sean. And quick reminder that Sean is local too. He is a California man, so he knows this retirement landscape locally, which is so, so important. So that time for you to call is now 559-847-0039. Or if it's an easier route for you, just head online. We are at MasonStreetRetirementInsights.com. You'll click on that contact tab. Make sure you say that you heard us on the radio, and then you can get started with us that way as well. We'll give you a few minutes now to make that call while we take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. Lots more is still ahead here on Mason Street Retirement Insights. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Willie's Wings, home of the secret sauce.
I'll take a dozen wings. Oh, by the way, I love that sauce. What's in it?
Can't tell you.
Why not?
It's a secret.
While many financial advisors claim to have the secret sauce, they don't. In fact, if their sauce is so good, why are they keeping it a secret? Sean Mason of Mason Street Wealth Management doesn't keep anything a secret. He knows there's much more to retirement planning than stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. He'll develop a strategy designed specifically for you. It's your own secret sauce for retirement. Call Sean Mason at Mason Street Wealth Management for your personal portfolio x-ray. Call 559-847-0039. That's 559-847-0039 or online at masonstreetwealthmanagement.com.
Fine, you want to know what's in the sauce?
Absolutely.
Tablespoon of paprika.
Really?
Hi, what'll it be?
I'll have a cone.
One vanilla cone coming right up.
Do you have any other flavors?
Not unless you want vanilla.
When choosing an advisor to build your retirement plan, you want more than just one option.
That's all you have? Vanilla?
Unfortunately, that's how most 401ks are designed. Limited options. The vanilla ice cream of the financial world. Sean Mason of Mason Street Wealth Management can take that financial vanilla cone and turn it into your retirement banana split. Call 559-847-0039. That's 559-847-0039 or online at masonstreetwealthmanagement.com. The choice is yours. A world of options and retirement flavors, or...
Fine. You want something different?
Yes.
Okay. 2 scoops of vanilla.
There are many lessons we learn as we're growing up. One was, don't touch the hot stove.
Ow.
Today, Uncle Sam is trying to keep that lesson alive with your 401k. Think about it. Don't touch your 401k before 59 and a half. You'll pay a penalty. Hot stove. Oof. Or don't touch your 401k. You'll have to pay taxes. You'll get burned.
Ouch.
You've been saving in this account your whole life. Why shouldn't you use it for retirement? So the financial industry can keep charging you fees, or the government can roll up your tax bill? Come on. Sean Mason at Mason Street Wealth Management believes in letting you enjoy your money. You worked for it, you saved it. Let's give you the confidence and permission to spend it. And there are plenty of options for you to explore. Go to masonstreetwealthmanagement.com to find out more. It's a no-obligation meeting to talk about planning and enjoying your retirement. Or call 559-847-0039. That's 559-847-0039. And let's give you some financial oven mitts for your 401k.
There was a time when the answer was
$1 million.
$1 million.
$1 million. $1 million.
$1 million.
the question, how much is a lot of money? Think about this. During the 80s, there were about 500,000 millionaires in the U.S. Today, there are over 18.6 million. There are millions of millionaires. The point is this. If you've saved $1 million for retirement, congratulations. But even if you haven't, that's your fortune. Whether you carry that label of middle-class millionaire or not, Sean Mason at Mason Street Wealth Management can show you how to take those hard-earned dollars and create years of retirement happiness. When you do the math on your retirement, it's more about the number you get per month than the amount you've saved. Call Sean Mason at Mason Street Wealth Management for your complimentary retirement review. 559-847-0039. That's 559-847-0039 or online at masonstreetwealthmanagement.com. Want to retire like a millionaire? Call Mason Street Wealth Management today.
Sean, I want to talk to you about something that's been hard to ignore lately, and that's what's been happening in the market. We've seen some wild swings in stocks so far this year, so when things get volatile, how risky is it to try and time the market? Wealth advisor Lawrence Sprong tells Yahoo Finance that you don't have to look that far back to find out. Take a listen.
If you look at it, most down and up days are clustered together. Since 2000, if you invested in just the S&P, you averaged 9.8% return. But if you just miss the 10 best days over that period, just 10 days, your return goes to a negative 12.5%.
And that's on an annual basis.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So trying to time things and going in and out, it's not that fruitful, especially most people are not professional traders that they can time that really effectively.
So, Sean, I want you to talk to us about why market timing is even more dangerous for somebody close to retirement than for somebody, let's say, in their 30s. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree with Lawrence that trying to time the market is absolutely losing strategy. And I've seen it time and time again. I've even made the mistakes myself and learned. Mm-hmm. You might be better off playing blackjack, and it's a heck of a lot more fun.
Yep.
But usually it's people get caught not necessarily trying to time the market, but they get out after the market has gone down, usually because of fear, and intending to get back in when the dust settles, and they end up missing the recovery, and that's where the problem happens. And Casey, you make a great point. The damage is multiplied when nearing or in retirement. Dr. Milevsky is a professor of statistics at York University in Toronto, and he does a lot of great research. We use a lot of his work, but he talks about how money works different when you're in retirement and relying on withdrawals. And we've been told for years that if you take 4 to 5% a year from your accounts, you're financially prudent and you will not run out of money.
Yeah. And that rule of thumb sounds comforting. You know, just take 4 or 5%, you're going to be fine. But you're saying retirement math doesn't work like a simple average. So walk us through this. What's the flaw in that thinking, and why does timing matter so much once your withdrawals start.
Yeah, and when families come into our office, as part of the discussion, we show them how this is a myth and how this strategy really is the hope game. There's a concept called sequence of returns. Each year, the market is going to deliver a certain rate of return, and through the years, they'll all be different. Some positive, some negative. If you're in the market, you believe the trajectory will be upward over time, and you can rely on the averages. But when you retire and you start taking withdrawals, you cannot rely on averages. Because when the market is down and you take a withdrawal, mathematically, you're paying penalties to get your money out. Those dollars that you take out of an account that has gone down will never recover, and that's not sustainable. Those accounts may not be there to provide for the lifestyle you're expecting.
Okay. So for somebody who's 5 years from retirement, or maybe they're already retired, what can they do to avoid that trap? What does a smarter income strategy look like if you don't want to rely on luck with market timing?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's really important to get this. Think about your retirement plan as a puzzle. And of course, we're trying to position the puzzle pieces to be as efficient as possible, but we've got to recognize that each piece of the puzzle is affecting another piece. That's sometimes what makes it more complicated for people. In retirement, taxes, investments, distributions, those strategies that you use, they're all affecting each other. And so specifically what your question is and what we're discussing here is the relationship between your withdrawals or distributions and your investment strategies. You've got to make sure that the investment strategy that you use is based on the time frame in which your distributions will happen. There's a time horizon for each dollar. A lot of times people think that the time horizon for themselves, the closer we get to retirement, is what matters the most, but maybe not necessarily. Maybe think about each dollar has its own time horizon, and your investment risk should be dependent on what that time horizon of each dollar is. You can maybe think about it in terms of buckets of money. The bucket of money that you're earmarking to spend in 10 years could be invested more aggressively, taking on more risk than the bucket of money that you're planning on spending next year or a couple years from now. And you can space out those buckets. You can suggest that, look, next year, I'm going to have my money sitting in a money market and just trying to catch the best interest rate possible. But the bucket of money I'm going to spend in year 2 and 3 can be a little bit more aggressive. There's got to be a lot of protections in there because you still don't have a lot of time to go through that roller coaster. And then years 4 and 5, those dollars can be invested a little bit more aggressively. And obviously 10 plus years, you can be at the height of your risk tolerance.
So I'm thinking the big takeaway is in retirement, it's not just about market returns. It's about return timing plus withdrawals. And the way you solve that is with structure, segmenting the money, building income sources, and putting those guardrails in place so that you're not forced to sell low. Do I have it right, Sean?
You've got it perfect. And it's called distribution-based investment strategies. And Casey, these investment strategies we've been discussing require advanced planning. And so there's no one size fits all. We have to tailor to each individual situation. So I want to invite our listeners to come into our office for a retirement planning assessment. We're going to talk about those taxes, estate planning, those distribution strategies. We've been discussing all the elements that you need to be considering. And for the first 5 callers, we're going to do this with no cost. It's just a great opportunity for people to get insight into how they all work together. So I encourage you to give us a call right now, 559-847-0039. Our team will find a convenient time for you to come into the office or meet by Zoom if that's most convenient.
559-847-0039. That's what you're dialing right now if you have $500,000 or more saved for retirement. And this is going to connect you with one of our Mason Street teammates who will then get you scheduled to have that conversation about your specific situation directly with Sean. 559-847-0039 or online at masonstreetretirementinsights.com. withdrawal.com. Okay, when you're close to retirement, Sean, mistakes like we were just talking about, they don't just show up on a statement. They show up in real life. And I think that fear of getting it wrong is part of why so many people do not feel ready to retire, at all. I saw a new survey by the TIAA that said nearly 2/3 of Americans say that retiring between the ages of 65 and 70 is unattainable. They're planning to work until they physically cannot work any longer. And their number one reason is replacing that guaranteed income that their job provided, because Social Security is just not going to cut it. It's just not enough to cover the bills. So I'm wondering, Sean, for our listeners who have saved, but they still don't think it's enough, like the nearly 2/3 of Americans the survey was telling us about, what do you say to those people? How do you help them?
Yeah, that's probably the number one concern folks have when considering retirement: timing. What's the magic number I need to have saved to retire with the lifestyle I'm expecting? And not knowing that answer is stressful. It causes anxiety and fear. And as you pointed out, Casey, it keeps people from retiring even if they have enough. But I also find in some cases a couple retired having done the calculations, but maybe made some planning mistakes or didn't think about an important piece of the puzzle, and now has to reduce their expected lifestyle. And what I really want people to get is that it doesn't have to be that way. You put your time in, you did the work, you raised the family, you were diligent in saving and accumulating assets with the hopes that you'd be able to do those things that you wanted and be free of financial stress.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the problem isn't always how much someone has saved. It's that they've never been able to see the full picture clearly. So walk us through this. What changes when somebody can finally see everything working together instead of just guessing?
Yeah, and this actually happens for people when they go through a strategic planning process. Imagine if you could see all the elements of your financial world all in one place. Your income sources, your cost of living adjustments, expenses, inflation, rates of return, and see how what you're doing now will affect you in the future. And then test different strategies that might improve it. Roth conversions, tax loss harvesting, structured notes, income distribution, and Social Security timing. The sheer knowing will change the way you feel. It gives you that confidence to make those decisions because you'll know the projected outcome. It's at that point we can determine any guaranteed income strategies to include. And to your point, Casey, especially those who don't have a pension, they often become more confident in retiring when there are some guarantees that they can rely on.
I'm wondering, Sean, if you could give us an example of how this process has helped somebody in real life. Maybe a couple who thought they couldn't retire, or somebody who maybe felt stuck until they saw the numbers laid out in front of them. Do you have an example, a real world example for us?
Yeah, for sure. In fact, about a month ago, we first met with Jim and Kathy. They had been listening to the show and they scheduled an initial consultation. Jim is 64 and Kathy is, I think, 62. But in that initial meeting, Kathy was explaining to me how Jim was really reluctant to retire before age 70. In fact, he was adamant about waiting to 70. And she really wanted him to retire at 65. She had things that she wanted them to do. And so in talking to Jim and really getting an understanding why he was reluctant, what he was concerned about, look, he just had concerns. He was concerned, did they have enough money? Were they going to be able to live the lifestyle that they were intending without running out of money? And then was market volatility going to play a factor? How much would market volatility interrupt those plans? And then he was really wanting to make sure, I think that probably Kathy kind of had some influence on this with him, but he wanted to make sure that there was going to be resources there for them to take care of health care, any long-term care needs that they might have. And I believe that he and Kathy had some legacy desires. They really wanted their lifestyle. They had bucket list items. They were looking forward to retirement. It's just Jim wanted to make sure that they were taken care of. And so we decided to go through the strategic comprehensive planning process. And we first designed a cash flow analysis for them. And so what that did is help them recognize that, look, they do have enough money to retire at age 65. They can retire safely and live the lifestyle that they're expecting with the money, the resources that they've accumulated. But we took it a step further because Jim needed some assurances. So we utilized a distribution-based investment strategy for those dollars that he was going to be withdrawing from his investment accounts. And that really helped him get confident that volatility in the marketplace would not interrupt the lifestyle. And then we took it one step further than that. We introduced to them a guaranteed income strategy utilizing an annuity that would pay for their core expenses from a guaranteed source to give them guarantees that they could rely on. And that really made Jim feel a lot more comfortable with retiring at 65. And then we also introduced them to a strategy that would help them ensure that they could leave some legacy to the kids, but also in the case that they ran out of resources or didn't have enough resources for health care, they would have them. We positioned some of their portfolio into a life insurance policy that gave that death benefit for the kids, but in the case they needed additional health care or long-term care resources, they could actually use that death benefit to pay for those long-term care benefits. So they were elated. Kathy just called me last week and said that we are moving forward with implementing the plan. Jim is going to retire next week, and I couldn't be happier for them.
I'm wondering how often you hear that. Like, I wish we'd done this sooner. We're so happy with, what we've learned through this process. We wish we had, talked to you 5-10 years ago.
It's real. I mean, and it all comes from comprehensive planning. It's just taking that step to get that knowing. So often this is the case. And, I just got to find a way always to help people recognize that you just don't know what you don't know until we get to it and do some planning.
559-847-0039. If you are listening and thinking, I've saved, but I don't feel confident, this is the conversation that you need to have. And Sean is offering you his introductory retirement planning assessment if you're one of our first 5 callers today with $500,000 or more saved for retirement. 559-847-0039. This is your chance to sit down with a professional with years in the game, look at what you've built, see where adjustments might make a real difference for you. 559-847-0039, or just head online to MasonStreetRetirementInsights.com. Click that contact tab, share your info with us, and we'll be happy to reach out directly to you to get you started. So, Sean, what really stands out to me in all of this is how much stress people are carrying around these decisions: money, work, retirement. We know better than anyone that it can all feel very overwhelming. And I saw a poll by Talker Research that they did recently, and it showed that half of Americans are actually trying to disconnect from the digital world because it feels so overwhelming. So people are turning to reading actual books, playing board games, using a real alarm clock, using a paper calendar, listening to music on vinyl, or listening to the radio. Hey, we support that. And why are they doing this? Well, to give themselves less stress. So reading through this this poll that Talker Research did got me thinking that if we're simplifying our daily lives in such a way like this, shouldn't we also be simplifying our retirement plans? I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Sean.
Well, I really hope that poll is true because, we're seeing in fact, this morning I walked into Cup of Joy. That's a local coffee house that we have here. And by the way, I'll suggest it might be the best coffee in town.
All right. Yeah. Bold statement. He said it, folks.
That's right. But I walk into this coffee house and I'm telling you, everybody was on their phone. I mean, not one person was not on their phone. And I just said, God, this is where we've come through. It reminded me of a Shark Tank episode. Shark Tank is where they have a panel of venture capitalists and entrepreneurs.
I'm going Mark Cuban if I ever get on there.
Yeah, you got it. Hey, I'm a Mr. Wonderful fan. So,
okay, I'll allow it.
But this entrepreneur went on there and he was pitching this slab of plastic that looked like a phone, but all it was a piece of plastic. and suggesting that we should all buy it. It was called the No Phone. And it was for just this reason, to get people to stop using the phone. I went, this isn't going anywhere, but they ended up selling thousands of those.
And you're carrying around a piece of plastic instead of your phone just so you can have something in your hand?
Just so you could take care of that habit, but not really need it. Wow. So I thought, okay, maybe there's a place for it.
Very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. But it's a really important point. No one comes into my office hoping to make retirement complicated. In fact, part of the reason they decide to work with us is to simplify and get clarity. There's so much information out there, and a lot of it can be beneficial, and there's a lot of noise as well. But what's difficult is sifting through it all to try and figure out what's truly relevant for your individual situation. We support a couple of nonprofit organization whose cause is to provide financial education to the community. And I'm lucky enough that through those groups, I had the opportunity to teach retirement-focused workshops at some local colleges in the area. And by the way, Casey, I don't want to forget at the end to remind people to sign up for the retirement course being held at Fresno State this coming week.
Okay.
But I teach several workshops throughout the year on various retirement topics, and each one is packed with information. And so we include an additional lab session where people can talk with an advisor to help them determine what's relevant to their individual situation and how to apply the concepts. And based on the feedback we get, we know those sessions are extremely valuable. And going back to your point, it's because we all want it to be simple. Show me what I can do to make it as great as possible, and that's what we're all looking for.
I'm curious what you think is the most common way that people overcomplicate their retirement without even realizing it, maybe.
Yeah, and we see it a lot. It's the spreadsheets. They start working the spreadsheets, and they start figuring out how much money they can spend through the years without running out of money. They start trying to figure out rates of return. They start trying to figure out inflation, and it just becomes really complicated. And often they walk in here and they say, look, I tried to get all these spreadsheets ready for you, and none of it's making sense to me anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense that if simplifying your daily life reduces stress, if carrying around a piece of plastic instead of your phone reduces stress, then it makes sense that simplifying your retirement plan would do the exact same thing for you. And that is exactly what Sean helps his clients do every single day. Take something that feels complicated and turn it into something clear and something manageable. So that number to reach us, it's 559-847-0039. If you've got $500,000 or more saved for retirement and you are realizing that your plan maybe feels harder than it needs to be, then this is your opportunity to get some clarity. When you dial 559-847-0039, that's going to connect you with one of our Mason Street teammates who will then help you get scheduled for your very own introductory retirement planning assessment. This is your chance to sit down with a local professional, somebody with years of experience in retirement in California, look at what you've built and see how to simplify your plan so that it actually works for you, not the other way around. So the time to act is right now. Let's go ahead, get you on Sean's calendar, 559-847-0039, or online at masonstreetretirementinsights.com. Click on that contact tab, fill out your info, make sure you say you heard us on the radio, and we will be happy to reach out directly to you. That's going to do it for us here today on Mason Street Retirement Insights. Thank you so much for spending part of your weekend with us. Sean, you and I are going to be back next week, same time, same place, with more retirement insight for Fresno. But until then, I want to throw it back over to you to take us out today, my friend.
We are, Casey, and I wanted to remind everybody to look up the retirement planning class being held at Fresno State. This only happens twice a year. It's very comprehensive. It starts this coming Tuesday. So give us a call or look us up on the website and see about registering for that class. Also, I encourage you, keep coming back. We care about your success, and we're going to bring you the information that you need to make sure that you make it as great as you can. So keep coming back, and we'll see you next week.
Mason Street Wealth Management, MSWM, is a registered investment advisor, and the opinions expressed by MSWM on this show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of Motivate Investments. Registration is not an endorsement by securities regulators. Investment advisory services are offered through Motivate Investments, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. The information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities. Offered through Sean A. Mason, California, insurance license number 0B54860. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Motivate Investments. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. MSWM is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if MSWM is licensed in your state, please call 559-892-0002.
There was a time when the answer was
$1 million.
$1 million.
$1 million.
$1 million.
$1 million.
$1 million.
the question, how much is a lot of money? Think about this. During the 80s, there were about 500,000 millionaires in the U.S. Today, there are over 18.6 million. There are millions of millionaires. The point is this. If you've saved $1 million for retirement, congratulations. But even if you haven't, that's your fortune. Whether you carry that label of middle-class millionaire or not, Sean Mason at Mason Street Wealth Management can show you how to take those hard-earned dollars and create years of retirement happiness. When you do the math on your retirement, it's more about the number you get per month than the amount you've saved. Call Sean Mason at Mason Street Wealth Management for your complimentary retirement review. 559-847-0039. That's 559-847-0039 or online at masonstreetwealthmanagement.com. Want to retire like a millionaire? Call Mason Street Wealth Management today.
Hi, what'll it be?
I'll have a cone.
One vanilla cone coming right up.
Do you have any other flavors?
Not unless you want vanilla.
When choosing an advisor to build your retirement plan, you want more than just one option.
That's all you have? Vanilla?
Unfortunately, that's how most 401ks are designed. Limited options. The vanilla ice cream of the financial world. Sean Mason of Mason Street Wealth Management can take that financial vanilla cone and turn it into your retirement banana split. Call 559-847-0039. That's 559-847-0039 or online at masonstreetwealthmanagement.com. The choice is yours. A world of options and retirement flavors, or...
Fine, you want something different?
Yes.
Okay, 2 scoops of vanilla.
Welcome to Willie's Wings, home of the secret sauce.
I'll take a dozen wings. Oh, by the way, I love that sauce. What's in it?
Can't tell you.
Why not?
It's a secret.
While many financial advisors claim to have the secret sauce, they don't. In fact, if their sauce is so good, why are they keeping it a secret? Sean Mason of Mason Street Wealth Management doesn't keep anything a secret. He knows there's much more to retirement planning than stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. He'll develop a strategy designed specifically for you. It's your own secret sauce for retirement. Call Sean Mason at Mason Street Wealth Management for your personal portfolio x-ray. Call 559-847-0039. That's 559-847-0039 or online at masonstreetwealthmanagement.com.
Fine, you want to know what's in the sauce?
Absolutely.
Tablespoon of paprika.
Really?
There are many lessons we learn as we're growing up. One was, don't touch the hot stove.
Ow.
Today, Uncle Sam is trying to keep that lesson alive with your 401k. Think about it. Don't touch your 401k before 59 and a half. You'll pay a penalty. Hot stove. Oof. Or don't touch your 401k. You'll have to pay taxes. You'll get burned.
Ouch.
You've been saving in this account your whole life. Why shouldn't you use it for retirement? So the financial industry can keep charging you fees or the government can roll up your tax bill? Come on. Sean Mason at Mason Street Wealth Management believes in letting you enjoy your money. You worked for it, you saved it. Let's give you the confidence and permission to spend it. And there are plenty of options for you to explore. Go to MasonStreetWealthManagement.com to find out more. It's a no-obligation meeting to talk about planning and enjoying your retirement. Or call 559-847-0039. That's 559-847-0039. And let's give you some financial oven mitts for your 401k.